In this video, I'm going to be sharing the on-stage interview that I did with Enga, legendary owner of Mattenga's Pizzeria, on how she turned a failing restaurant into a $7 million a year award-winning success.
Mattenga's Pizzeria.
They were just voted best pizza in San Antonio.
This is one of the most value-packed interviews that I've ever done because I learned so many details, like the wild story of how she took over a restaurant that was losing money and turned it around to now making more than $7 million a year, and everything that she learned in that rapid turnaround process. Or the genius way that she financed multi-location expansion from 1 location to 7 locations in under 5 years without taking in outside capital or loans or franchising. So if you want to learn from one of the best operators in the country, I highly recommend watching this one all the way through because it's filled with gold nuggets that could be used to make millions in restaurants and drive similar success. Hope you enjoy.
I'd love to start with your origin story, how it was that you got into the world of restaurants, and then from there we can unpack the journey of scaling to the place that you are now.
Sure. So we started our journey in 2014. So we've been in business for 11 years. Prior to that, my husband and I, we met in college. He's a civil engineer. I did electrical engineering. And we got married, and then we had a child, and we realized we're just staring at a screen all day, and that is not what we had envisioned for ourselves. And we loved serving people food. We also led a college ministry at that time, and we had people over to the house all the time. So it'd be like, okay, everybody, we're making fresh pasta and like rolling it out and all that. We just serving people food was just something very, very special. And we thought, hey, let's go in business for ourselves. How hard can it be? It can't be harder than differential equations. We had never, ever worked at a restaurant in any capacity or business. We knew nothing, and we were unhappy living in New Mexico at that time. That's where we graduated and all that. We're like, Texans always brag about Texas. Let's just move out there. And there is a website called Biz Buy Sell where a lot of restaurants or any brick and mortar business that comes up for sale, it comes up. You can sign up an NDA and they share with you the P&L. But if you don't know what you're looking at, the broker said, this is a cash cow, whatever it was, this ignorance is, you have to pay for your own education. It took us years to, I can't blame the broker for that. It's our ignorance, not doing our due diligence. Obviously, that's way before AI, because I'm thinking if we could feed those P&Ls before we purchased and knew exactly what questions to ask, we would be in a better place. But we moved from New Mexico to Texas. We rented a home, and then one day to the next, we owned this restaurant. And we had my son, who's 14 now, he was like 2 years old, and the other one was like 7-month-old at a time. One day to the next, we had like 7 team members. I didn't know how to cut a pizza. Like I would cut it, and it doesn't actually fully cut. If you're in the pizza business, you know what I'm saying? So nothing at all. We didn't know what we're getting ourselves into.
And what happened with that location that you bought from bizbuysell.com?
That is our first location. That is our flagship that you've been at twice, Adam. And that location at a time, it was making around $500,000 a year in gross sales. And when you come, in the world of, you think, oh, wow, that's a lot of money. However, that was about $200,000 below break even at that time. So that's the thing. We make a lot of money in the restaurant industry, and you can obviously be in the negative. So we lived at that store for 2 years, pretty much.
The business broker told you it was a cash cow,
yes.
$500,000 top
Correct.
line. But
yes.
Behind the scenes, you found out when you purchased it that it was actually losing $200,000 a
Yes.
year?
Yes.
Wow. How did you turn it around to now being the iconic flagship location of your brand, doing millions in top line? Like, how did you take it from 200,000 negative a year to now many millions in top line at that single store?
So, the first 6 months, you're trying to deal with the chaos of the team, and many of them left. And then so it was just our family trying to deal with all of that. At some point, there was a Chick-fil-A that opened in our strip center. Previous to that, we thought, this location is slow because of the access to the strip center, or there's not enough parking. You think as a victim sometimes as a restaurant owner that, it's because of this, it's because of that, that's why we're not busy. And then that Chick-fil-A opened up, and they were cars going over and over in that. It was like, my goodness, we need to go out there and get customers. The restaurant was mostly empty at that time, so we signed up with our local chamber of commerce. Any ribbon cutting, we were there. There was a parade, there was a kids event, anywhere. We would go with free pizzas, and that's how we got known. We showed a lot of goodwill, and then people come back and support. Gradually, it was a gradual process. Growing pains were very painful, let's just say that.
It does sound painful.
Yes.
So for those that don't know Enga, I've known her for years and I've seen her numbers. You're probably wondering to yourself, why should I listen to Enga specifically on how to develop my restaurant or drive efficiency? She runs one of the tightest ships I've ever seen that isn't a multi-billion-dollar restaurant corporation. Like, I've seen the way Yum Brands runs, which is a super tight ship that owns Taco Bell and Pizza Hut and a variety of others, but you have a similar level of rigor with your 7 locations. And to give the audience a sense of the results that produces, you guys are now up to more than $7 million a year top line, running 8% net margins, even when you're in this expansion phase where you're investing a lot of money into expanding more and more locations. That is a place that a lot of the people in this room aspire to be. It's like $500,000 plus a year in net income to use in continuously growing your locations. Can you tell me more about what it was in the past decade or so of running your restaurant so efficiently that you think has most contributed to your ability to not only turn around that store of losing $200,000 a year to now profiting many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but also enabling your expansion? Like, if you could pick out the 3 things that you could whisper to your younger self, what would they be?
So in 2016, in summertime, my husband and I, we got a hotel down in San Antonio. Him and I, to spend 2 days to really think and process. We had so many problems. We pretty much were at the restaurant 7 days a week. Everything depended on us to be there, whether him or me and all of that. And so we decided to write down all of our frustrations. So we, with the business, him and like it was 6 pages each, all of our frustrations with different stuff. You know, the prep, it's always we run out of stuff in the middle of the rush or all kinds of stuff. And then so we went and isolated our top 3 frustrations that when solved, it would either free us most time or bring the most revenue into the company. We isolated the top 3 and we went on and we would check in every month. We got aggressive about solving our problems and removing frictions and frustrations. Everybody has frustrations. We accept it as norm in our industry, the frustrations we have, but we got really aggressive about solving those key frustrations and finding numbers that if we control that number, it'll solve the problems that we have. So we got very good at managing our numbers, which is the second thing. Aggressively, everything is measured. When you
Before we get into the second thing, I want to make this more actionable for the people in the room on the first thing, which was listing all of your frustrations, things that either cost you money or cost you time. That's the first thing you did. You created like a massive list of every possible thing. And then you stack ranked them and asked yourself, what would be the most valuable to solve of these frustrations with operating my restaurant, either in freeing me up time or freeing me up money?
Yes.
And you produced the top 3.
Yes.
And then did you just only focus on knocking out those 3 before you moved on to the list? Because I'm sure that the list was dozens long when you were...
I'm going to give you an example. So one is it was a frustration for me that we kept hiring new people, that they may stay with us for 2 weeks or 6 months, and I'm repeating myself, whatever the policies are, the onboarding, the basics of our menu training. I keep training people on the menu. I realized that was a point of frustration for me because they may quit in 2 weeks and my time is gone and I have little children and I can't do that. So I started recording videos. I would go to the store at 5 a.m. and I had a little, iPhone 4S or whatever it is from that time. And I would record videos and I would have new hires watch those videos. That gave me back probably 15 hours a week, just that alone.
Wow. How many people in this room, show of hands, that are running restaurants can relate to that first frustration of having to spend so much time training people that then are out of the restaurant within a year? All right, so it looks like most of the restaurant owners. And to make the video that you made or set of videos you made more actionable, can you walk us through like where you started in those videos and what the length was and how you ensured that the people joining your team actually watched them and were well trained before they got on the line?
So that's way before AI. We created quizzes because now I'm going to go in that session talking about how easy it is to create menu quizzes, all the things with AI. It takes minutes. Back then it took a lot of time. So when you create quizzes, and you set expectations. When a new hire is joined, you're going to be watching those videos, and you're going to have to pass a quiz before you can get on the clock to continue working here. They're going to be most likely, paying attention during to those videos. Also, we run a lot of time trials. For example, stretching dough, or we have trainings, but then there is a standard of time that is not meeting expectation or meeting expectation or exceeding expectation for every single task, because it's measured time. How long does it take to gut a make line? For example, we like, this team member is slow, this team member is fast. That is vague. That's not actionable. If it's take you 15 minutes to gut the make line at closing, you're meeting expectation to a standard. The like has to be clean to a standard. That's the expectation is 15. If it's taking you 30 minutes, because slow or fast needs to be defined.
Yep. So step one, you identify that the biggest sink of your time was having to train each new member of the team that often would last 2 weeks to 6 months, and then you'd have to repeat it again. You estimated 15 hours a week was going into that. So step two, you figured out all the different pieces of what you were doing manually to train each member of your team on having menu knowledge or operations knowledge. And you made short videos with your iPhone, just filming yourself in your restaurant, doing what you would do manually and teaching somebody, but just walking them through in as simple and easy and fast a way as possible. And then step three, you would make them watch the videos and confirm that they watched the videos through actually creating a quiz to test their knowledge before they were able to clock in.
That's correct.
And how long was it before this started to work and free up your time?
Relatively very quick. I'm going to say in maybe 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks after rolling it out.
Wow.
Because I was there all the time as well, and I was really solid about guarding my time. So I made people watch it, and you have to pass a test or you're not getting on. Or over a period, this is over within 2 weeks, you need to have this skill set if you want to continue working with us. And the expectations were very clear. It was posted on the wall. It's not personal. It's not favoritism.
This is something that you did a decade ago, and now it is more relevant than ever with how difficult the labor market is in restaurants. Can you walk us through how you made the other part of this efficient, the part where you're having to sort through resumes and interview people? Like, what does your system look like for that today to make it so that you're constantly attracting people that are actually going to give a good guest experience at high effort? What are the things you look for? How do you find them? And what is the process you have in place for actually filtering people out and then getting them to work at your concept?
100%. And I want to go back to what I was saying about in 2016. One of the things, aside from frustration list, my husband and I created was creating a vivid vision for different aspects of our business. This is from a book called Double Double by Cameron Harold, and it's called Vivid Vision. And we had a vision of, if I were to walk into our kitchen, first off, I want everybody to wear uniforms, the speed of service, the chaos, the food order, everything, like what's the guest experience going to be? We wrote it down. That was far from reality at that time. You have to have a vision for every aspect of your restaurant, including, like, for example, because I'm going to connect that to what you're saying, who is a good fit. You need to have a vision for your restaurant operations, how you define culturally that person to be a good fit. Who is a good fit, for example, for Domino's? If someone is not necessarily passionate about food and ingredients, it could be a good fit for McDonald's. They're simply not a good fit for us. And it's not, there are people for all over, but you need to have first clarity. And we call that, we have Mattengas, and we call them Mattenganites. It's like Israelites. We have Mattenganites, and we're like, who's a Mattenganite? Who's a Mattenga not? We're really cheesy, we eat a lot of cheese. So we make it clear who is a Mattenganite, who is a Mattenga not. So speed, accuracy are very important. If a team member doesn't care about those things, they're not going to be a good fit. So we defined our core values. Texas hospitality is one of our core values. Invest is one of our core values. We have a book club. If you think you know everything, this is not going to be a good fit, because I don't know everything as the founder. So if I'm constantly learning, I'm reading books, I'm attending business events, we bring our team along. They attend different business events with us as well, our managers. So those are filtering that we have in place, our core values. And I would love to hear if folks that we have here, do they have their clarity on their vision statement, their mission statement, their core values, or not?
And you've now reached a scale where it's your managers at each unit that are doing the sourcing, evaluation, hiring process. Have you also created like these video style trainings for each of the managers at your locations that detail the way you think about it as a leader? Or how do you ensure that they're following the same process that you did for the shirts location, your first one?
We do have a weekly manager meeting where one of our core values is engineered, because we really stare at our data and our numbers and our dashboard. That's 1 hour. The second hour is a training of our managers. We do role plays. So imagine I'm the candidate. So we have trainings for things, but there are also a lot of scripts and role plays that, for example, I'm an applicant and you're our manager. I would say, okay, interview me, and then during there, and then they get feedback. Other managers look at that scenario. A lot of role plays, a lot of scripts, a lot of training.
One of the things that a bunch of folks in the audience asked to hear more about was how you're using AI to make your restaurant operations and leadership easier. Can you walk us through some of the things that you've done with AI that you've applied in your restaurant in order to make operating the restaurant easier for you as the owner?
Sure. So I will go over it here in a bit. Obviously, a lot of HR issues. A lot of issues you deal with as an owner are HR issues. People are late. No call, no shows, uniform, different scripts, all kinds of stuff. The salad, they want to put the cucumber this way or that way. All of those things, we standardize things using AI, which I will go over briefly later. But on a management level, we create a lot of role plays and trainings. One aspect is handling customer concern, as you talked about, for example, with owner. We want our managers to call guests and make it right. Earn their heart back and their wallet to come back and do business with us. So one of the things that I did was like, what are the top 10 reasons? Obviously, I had a good conversation with ChatGPT. What are the top 10? We call it Chatty. I had a good conversation with Chatty. Going over top 10 issues at a pizzeria, it's actually very common. Late pizza, cold pizza, missing item. For every single of those 10, I processed coming up with a script, exactly like a dialogue script for handling those. And so we put our managers through those role plays. For example, that has been an absolute game changer. I don't expect our manager just to go talk to a customer is upset. Oh, well, look, because if they do this, what if the customer said, y'all are sucking this and that, whatever. I have my manager have scripts to respond to those things. And it's never been as easy using AI for those. So scripts and I would say, I don't know if everybody uses that, but that has been a game changer for us because I am in charge of developing our managers. So these are the tools I really use.
Brilliant. You have the AI first list out everything that could possibly go wrong and then create a script for what the customer service response should be. And then you simplify that, make it correspond to your brand voice. And you make that like a 1-pager or 2-pager for managers to just constantly study. Per issue, we have a script and we role play. We have managers role play back and forth over and over and over. And also another thing we do is all of our reviews on a monthly basis, we feed it into ChatGPT. And I'm like, come up with the 5 reasons why our customers love us, or what do they specifically love about what we do. And then on the other hand, give me by percentage of the complaints we get. So 32% of customers complain about the cold pizza, this and this and that. And I ask it to act like a director of ops on a chain, Domino's, and give me actual operational suggestions. For example, one of the suggestions that we had not thought about is, okay, cold pizza is an issue. Thank you, third-party deliveries that take pizza boxes that are not in pizza bags. That's besides the point. Is that the pizzas are cold. It's like, do we have a standard of temperature of the pizza before it goes out the door? We have those thermometer guns that you can check the temperature, which is famous in COVID times. Like that was one of the AI suggestions. You can open the pizza box and see the temperature. Should we remake this pizza or we can serve it? For example, that was AI generated solution for that problem. So we do that as well. Brilliant. One of the things that I think is really important for people to understand about what you're describing is that the concepts that successfully scale to 5+ locations always have an extremely detailed understanding of what great looks like in every single part of their business. Like, what should the temperature be when pizza leaves the kitchen? Or what does a back of house team member need to have as a core trait to make them successful on the line? Or what are the things that the front of house needs to be trained and ready to say in each of these possible guest cases? And that is what enables multi-location scale, because it's not just about dialing in your ability to produce excellence in that first location, but once you have that library that is perfectly defining what great looks like for your specific concept, you're able to then add additional locations and quickly train people and onboard people onto what made that first concept so well operated and successful and beloved, because you've got all of those things easy to understand, well documented, and easy for then your managers of each subsequent location to teach new team members.
That sums it up, and it goes back into having that vision. You know, I've spoken to some folks here that are heavily involved in their operation. It starts with you first defining, where do you want to be in 6 months? Where do you want to be in 12 months? So maybe today you're heavily involved in everything, or you don't have managers, or you don't have systems for things. And I sure hope you don't compare yourself to, you know, what we do, but rather it inspires folks to be like, you know what, let me set a target for where I want to be in the next 6 months or 12 months and define that, exactly what that is, and walk toward it. What can I do this week to get me closer to that which I desire in 6 months? That is pretty much, it works in everything in life, but that's what we did. And we do have quarterly meetings. My husband and I, we look at what we decided. These are standard business practices that many professional businesses do, and it's very common. It's not as common in the restaurant industry because we really view ourselves more like operators than business owners. That is a mindset shift that folks need to go from thinking that I'm an operator of a restaurant to you are a business owner. You need to be thinking very differently in business, that it could be a CEO, you're a founder of your company. You don't need to be over there making that pizza. Yes, you make the prettiest pizza and the fastest, but that is not what brings value to the business. We talked about this with some of the folks, is that if I used to work the line every Friday night, and that was a frustration for me, I probably worked 600 Fridays, like every Friday. It was like I had to work, and that was a huge point of frustration. Yes, I'm a very fast pizza maker, but that is a $12 an hour task. If I'm hoping to make millions or grow our company, that is no way, like that's a $12 task. It will never get me to that which I desire as fast as a pizza maker that I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. That's where I think the first exercise you described is so powerful, where you're listing out all the frustrations you have and then what frustrations would be the most important to solve for, and then just focusing on those top 3 most important to solve for frustrations, onboarding team members, or developing the training so that you can have other people in the back of the house working Friday nights, so that you're constantly, as the business owner, freeing yourself up from those frustrating tasks to focus both on the things that energize you and the things that you uniquely can do. Because it's not you uniquely that can do the $12 an hour back of house line cook stuff. It's thinking more like the business owner in terms of being able to drive additional growth and expansion and recruit managers for your concepts, the things that you can't actually easily outsource. But to get to being able to spend most of your time on those tasks, you first have to get rid of these recurring frustrations that your business wouldn't run without you having either you personally doing it or a clear system in place and people in place that are able to do it for you.
100%. And one of the things that happened to me is that, you know, we have 4 children, ages from 4 to 12. And I did mention we had the 2 little ones when we started this journey, is that I literally had a due date for my daughter, who's 8 now. And that really, I realized I cannot be here on a Friday. And I worked till the day before I gave birth. I worked on the line with the belly and all that, which is really common in our industry, nothing unique there. But I had a due date realizing that I need to be able to step away 2 to 3 weeks to 4 weeks, hopefully. And that's why we're in business, right? That's why we're in business, to have control of our time. You know, some of us wanted to open a restaurant, we wanted freedom, you know, all the things. But I needed the operation to run without me, period. And I had a date specific. And that's the thing, people will get resourceful if you make yourself do something. If it's not negotiable for you, if there is a date, and if you get really serious about your priorities, what you spend your time, instead of doing the easy thing. Making pizzas is easy. You feel good about yourself doing the operation little task, but that will not lead to freedom. And that is what I needed. So that was a really important point for me, that I had, like, you know what, in the next 4 months, I really need to figure out on a daily, where am I needed and what systems are missing, what training I need to create so I can step away.
And your daughter, who is now 8, was the forcing situation that you gave yourself of, by the time she was born, I need to make it so that the business can operate without me. What was it that then made you ready to expand to multiple locations? How is it that you ended up then feeling ready, and how did you gear up from going from 1 unit to now 7? Can you walk us through the big considerations and your mindset at the time that led to that expansion?
Yeah. And so you said, when you were ready, we weren't ready. I don't think you were ever ready for what you don't know. You're not ready for it's a very famous saying that it's never a good time to have children, because it's never a good time to open more restaurants. You were never ready for that. And also you look, I'm already working 50 hours a week. I can't be in 2 places. I can't be in 3 to 4 places at the same time. So what happened for us is the first 4 years, we had the 1 location, and then we opened the second location on the 4th year. And then after that, about 3 years, we had the 2 locations, and then we added 4 the 6th or 7th year in business. And the truth is that 1 location, sadly, will not make that much money. Even if you run it profitably, you are still needed. You can't pay your managers that much. And that's the problem. You really want to get to 3, because then hopefully you should get sales to a level that you can pay an area manager to oversee 3 of your restaurants. And who's that area manager? A very well-performing general manager you currently have that needs to be able to do those same tasks and train other GMs to do that at scale of 3 stores. So, instead of bringing someone from outside, there's no need for that. But that is, you're never ready for it. But ultimately, we weren't running, I would say, wasn't considering the amount of work that it was. I don't think with 1 location we were making as much money to justify the amount of work we were putting into it. So that drove the need to add more locations at that time.
One of the very impressive things about your growth is that even though the first distressed asset that you bought, the first location that you have, didn't end up being very easy to turn around, it was losing $200,000 a year, you ended up continuing to apply that strategy to then grow up to 7 locations, where a bunch of your additional locations were pizzerias that you found that weren't doing very well, and then you committed to opening a location there and turning it around. Can you share more about how that process works of identifying a distressed asset of a pizzeria that isn't succeeding, then taking it over and implementing your concept in it, and the process that you go through for figuring out when a location that you're considering taking over isn't successful because of the location versus because of the execution? Because I think you guys took over a Pizza Hut, if I recall correctly.
It was a Papa John's.
A Papa John's, which is like a super well executed concept that scaled to thousands of locations. And you made that store successful when it wasn't as a Papa John's. So walk us through how you think about expanding to a restaurant that is struggling and then making it not struggle, and how you identify whether there's an opportunity versus a cash sinkhole if you end up taking it over.
Sure. So that goes back into multiple things. One is my husband looks at, when we go with a broker to see a location that is available, it's a restaurant that's not doing well, he has a very different lens. He looks at very different things, and I look at very different things. And then we sit together to figure out if it is a good decision. So I'm going to go over what he looks at, and then I can talk about what I look at. What he looks at is the equipment that's already there, like the actual restaurant itself, the equipment that's there, because he's in different restaurant auctions. He knows the equipment. He's our facilities manager, still kind of a little bit involved with the repairs and stuff. So when a restaurant that's coming up for sale, if they're saying it's up for sale $50K or $100K, you need to be able to assess the asset that is there and what you're paying for, so you can negotiate properly. So he does all the negotiations. He looks at the assets that are there. The AC units up there, I don't know if you know, like it's HVAC is super expensive.
Yep.
So you need to be part of the negotiations. So he looks at a lot of those things. I look at demographics, psychographics, but we look at income levels that is a good fit for what we serve. So a lot of those decisions need to be made before you commit.
It sounds like you're not really considering the P&L of the restaurant that was there before. You're just looking at the assets that are in the restaurant. Is the equipment going to end up saving us money by being able to reuse it, including the HVAC and all the kitchen equipment? And then the second piece is, are we confident that a Mattenga's would be successful here based on some combination of the income levels in the nearby zip codes within a 4-mile radius and the competitive landscape? But it's not about what is the current restaurant that is there doing. It's more so like just trying to imagine, would your concept be successful there?
So a lot of times we may not have access to that P&L because it's a lot of asset purchase. It is not buying because we're not going to carry that name. We're not going to have access to that customer database. We actually don't see P&Ls as much. It's a brand, we're not taking over their staff. It's a brand new store. But what we do look at that I did not mention, Adam, is Matt has a spreadsheet dashboard with formulas in there for us to, we know what the fixed cost is considering rent. If I know that the rent hypothetically is $10,000, I know the standard for rent for it to be, say, 8% of my sales, then I can, for it to be a 10% profit margin on that location, I can be like, okay, this location need to be making this much money in sales for us to be be profitable. This is a very easy math to do. Yes, you can do the break-even point, or it can involve a lot of criterias into it, but that rent is very, very important. That's how we make decisions that, oh, wow, if this location needs an average of $30K a week in sales, then I can be like, is that even possible? Or that's not even possible based on the density or the restaurants that are around it, because maybe that's not even possible. Okay, if it's $30K and my average ticket is $30, that means I need to bring in this many customers a month. Well, how long before I bring that? So we do run that math of knowing where sales need to be, considering labor and COGS for everything to make sense. But that is another spreadsheet we do run before we make a commitment to know if it's going to be a success or not.
And are you still using bizbuysell.com for these asset purchases, or do you have a different system now that identifies the restaurants in the San Antonio area that you might be able to take over via an asset purchase?
We do not use BizBuySell anymore. There are brokers that they contact you, or strip centers that have a location available. They contact us on social, or they email and say, hey, this space is available, if you want to come look at it. So those brokers are available, but again, they're going to tell you it's a cash cow. You need to do your own due diligence and run your own numbers. Yeah.
Totally. Speaking of running your own numbers, one of the really unusual things about you as a restaurant owner is that you've tested pretty much everything under the sun over the past 10 years. Like, it's one of the things that I've learned a lot from you on. You've tested direct mail, social media, and like 50 other marketing strategies over the years, because you're constantly testing and measuring and figuring out what it is that is most effective at driving sales. Can you walk us through some of the things that you were kind of surprised at how well they worked when you started using them at Mattenga's, and specifically, ideally, things that are either operational tweaks to drive up sales or marketing channels that are often overlooked that you wouldn't have expected to work so well that ended up being a part of your massive growth over the past decade?
So one, like, we can talk about like marketing. Like, one easy one is Facebook groups. Facebook groups are the best, I would say. We have, like, for example, Shirts has where, our flagship store is. There's like, Shirts, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there are so many, there's 30,000 people there in that Facebook group. People interact. They're like, oh, there's a traffic, this and that. And then they have business days that you as a business can post. I don't know, would love to hear that, but we religiously post on Facebook groups, and that brings a lot of awareness because we have existing customers. They're like, oh, I love Mattenga's or whatever, right there under the comments. And if somebody was not happy, wow, when it's, overrated, right there, I would respond back. But it is a great tool, and it is free.
That is so interesting. I've not heard of a restaurant using Facebook groups successfully to grow. So you find the one that is the most relevant, and you think like every city or smaller neighborhood tends to have one. Join the Facebook group. Then you figure out what day they allow businesses to promote themselves. And every single time that day comes, you make a post. You have some of your regulars comment on the post to drive social proof. And then it ends up being seen by a lot of the broader community. And the combination of you as the restaurant owner posting and all your regulars ends up driving people to want to try your restaurant.
Yes.
Any others that are unconventional that you've seen work well?
We also cold email sometimes big businesses.
Sure.
So we have always done taking free food to different businesses. Just we're like, hey, we're just a pizzeria down the road. We're local. We take free pizzas to businesses just to get to know them, and just for you to know that we're down the road. If there's an opportunity for us to serve you, we're happy to do that. So we've done that for years. that has always worked, and we had this conversation. It doesn't work if you just go one time. It comes across you're like a sales rep person who no one wants to see. You need to go over and over. So what we did early on is we mapped out 100 businesses in 5-mile radius of our shirt store. And every week there were this 25, second week, this 25, this 25. So every month we had this 100 businesses that would hear from us. This would be businesses including hotels and all the things. We would take a free to 10-inch pizza, Zeppeli donuts, garlic bread we talked about. We go to the front desk of the hotel. Oh, hey, we have a lot of guests from the hotel that come to Mattenga's. We want to thank you. I don't know if y'all are recommending us or not, but thank you so much for doing that. And here's free breadsticks as a thank you. You'd be surprised because they're going to be keeping recommending us, whether it's true or not. You sow that seed. So yes.
You figure out all the possible referrers in your community that a lot of people ask for recommendations, like the front desk at the hotel.
Yes.
And then you just bribe them with free food every month.
I mean, we
but they
bless
don't realize
them.
It's a
we
bribe.
don't bribe them. We bless them with free food. So.
And then because they hear from you every month, and you the script when the manager brings it in is, we get a lot of guests from this hotel. I don't know if you guys have been recommending us, but we brought you some free food to thank you.
Yes.
Then that gets them to recommend you more, because then they're thinking of you and they really like your food personally. That is so clever. This is what I mean. You've tested everything under the sun. Any other guerrilla marketing strategies that you or your managers consistently execute that is able to drive this type of community awareness?
One, we talked about it as well. What still works is wearing a pizza costume on the side of the door, on the side of the busy street, during rush hour, 1 hour, 5 to 6 on a rush hour where all the cars are going. How many cars are people pay thousands for a billboard? If you just, and I've done it, my husband Matt has done it, and then we make our team members to do it too, because if I'm doing it, you're doing it, everybody pitches in 1 hour, you will not die. We start with the example, but people honk the horn, they see the pizza costume with a sign. You have to hustle. If you're desperate for this craving pizza and it has an arrow to Mattenga's, it says craving pizza. I mean, we believe everybody craves pizza. I mean, that's that. But that works and then people call and they're like, oh, hey, I just saw somebody in the pizza costume, by the side of the road. I thought to give you all a shot, but you have to do it every single day, because if it's just a one time, it won't work. But that works. If you think about it, do I pay a team member $15 for 1 hour, 30 minutes, hundreds of cars in a rush hour pass by, that will be able to just see you. If you do it multiple times, you know what? Check them out the next day, because this is the route to work or back or picking their kids from school. That still works.
Cool.
And it's affordable.
Okay, so these are the guerrilla marketing things that are how you grew with no budget, basically just bootstrapping your way up to now millions in volume across the stores. Now you've got 7 locations, and I'd imagine that these things are harder when you've got 7 locations, because it's not you as the owner that's going to greet the hotel front desk, asking for recommendations. What are some of the things that you're doing digitally to try and scale your growth, but without requiring the manual effort on each location and checking whether somebody went out with the pizza costume during rush hour, or whether the concierge got the pizza, unless you've completely systematized and standardized those things at 7 locations? I'm curious, digitally, where your focus is and what you're seeing work.
Sure. So email marketing works. And text message marketing.
Can you share some of the numbers that you're seeing?
I mean, we have average 35 to 38% open rate on our email, and we do 2 emails a week and 2 texts a week. And that works because it drives sales, but what it does...
How much does it drive sales? 2 emails and 2 texts a week. How much do you see in attributable sales to that?
I think that probably 40% recurring business is comes from the email and text.
40% of your recurring business?
Yes. We hear about it.
So $3 million a year in sales you think is coming from email and text message marketing?
Yes. And part of that is because what it does more than anything is establish a habit. Starbucks has a habit. People go get a coffee every single day.
Say more on that. What do you mean by establish a habit? What are the 2 days that the emails and the texts go out, and what do they say?
The emails and the text go out always on the same specific days and time. It's never random. So, for example, the Friday is Feed the Family Friday deal. It goes 4 p.m. on a Friday, period. For years, I'm gonna say for 10 years, we've been emailing. It goes, like, people know, it establishes that consistency and that habit. It builds trust. So it's not random on a 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, once on a Thursday. We don't do that. Oh, wait, sales is down, let's send a text. That's very reactive. We don't do that. Usually we establish that habit. And I think that also helps with the open rate, because it doesn't come across we're bugging them. It's expected almost. And the other one is on Wednesdays, which is like hump day. There's a hump day deal at 4 p.m. Every Wednesday is another text and another email that goes out. It always has an offer, but also it's a picture of us in the community. We donated pizzas, we had a birthday party. It goes there as well, because we want to be telling stories, pictures of our team. We're hitting multiple things, building habit. We want our regulars, we want to continue to give them reasons to love us.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So what's interesting about what you're saying is, I'm sure a lot of the people in this room right now are thinking, if we emailed our regulars every Friday with the Feed Your Family Friday, or every Wednesday telling them it's hump day, they'd get really frustrated with us. They'd leave our email list. They would not want to hear from us anymore. But what's unique about the way you're executing it, and you have been for the past 10 years, is you've actually cultivated a group that craves this specific offer from you that you've built over time. It's like 40% of your regular base, which is insane. But that group, because they initially got excited about the Feed Your Family Fridays, they want the reminder because they think it's great value and they have grown to love your food. And so because it's like part of the way you initially acquired them, reaching out to them repeatedly with the same exact offer every Friday is something that they actually see value in, because it's what they signed up for in the first place.
Yes, exactly.
In terms of emerging new technologies, things that you've tried, have you used AI for growth? Aside from email and text message marketing, which it sounds like has been the biggest contributor, what have been the other things that you've seen work best, and what are the sales impacts?
Sure. So I wanted to talk about, like, you said about software, and we really wanted to talk about that. One of the challenges with software is that we use different software for different things, and there is a lot of reporting on Owner, on Toast. There is so many reports. On a scheduling platform, there are so many reports, and they don't all talk to one another necessarily. And you're expecting a restaurant owner to go check the reports here, check the reports here. So we do have a spreadsheet dashboard that we have a team member to populate this dashboard from all of our different softwares. The numbers that we check and babysit, the numbers go into a spreadsheet. And that has been very beneficial. I think software on its own isn't enough. It's what you do with the data that it gives you. Software is good to give you data, so you want to make data-driven decisions. But how you do that is look at different trends of a data. So you were talking about the Google reviews. We do track number of Google reviews we get per location weekly. So I can be like, wait a minute, on average, we get 22 reviews per week for this location. I can see, oh, wait, it's getting more or less. We study those trends. We don't just look at a data. We look at a trend of what is transpiring, if that makes sense.
What are the metrics that are the most important for that team member to be updating every week, that are like the things that you really point your team to? And then let's walk through the process of how you set that up, because I think I remember hearing about this like 3 years ago from you, how you found somebody in the Philippines that makes like $4 an hour and does this like 20 hours a week, where they're like building out your dashboard and finding trends for you. But let's start with like, what is it that the dashboard does? And then let's talk about how you ended up doing it so cost effectively by using a Filipino virtual assistant, if I recall correct.
Yes, that's correct. So the dashboard, we actually have been doing this for 10 years. So we have data and trends for the last 10 years, looking at so many different, how many deliveries we get, how many deliveries are placed over the phone versus online per store. We look at the dollars from different dining options, the number of discounts that are used. Like, it's 30 different numbers we look at. So because Matt and I realized sometimes we simplify things in our industry a little too much, and it is a business. You have to look at many different numbers to be able to make good decisions and for accountability purposes. One of the reasons we're free from working ops is because we have standards and we hold our managers to those standards, and those numbers are very clear of labor, COGS, all the things.
So if I understand correctly, every single location gets a breakdown of their specific economics and order makeup. in-store versus phone versus online, and you probably break up third parties.
Load times of how long it takes, the load times, we talked about it. It's a metric we measure is from the time an order fires to the time that tablet is cleared for that order from the make line that goes into the oven. That's our load time. We measure that. Kajabi is a learning platform. We use percentage of completed courses and trainings per team member. It's there. There's a lot of numbers that we look at. Yeah.
And let's pretend you're back to running 1 to 3 units before you had this infrastructure of managers that were doing these things for you. If you were building the system for, let's say, 2 units when you were at that level of scale, what is the simplest version of that system that you'd recommend for the people that are listening that are at that level of scale before they have an area manager and all the rest, in terms of the minimum but still extremely useful version of this dashboard? What would you have in it and how would you set it up? It sounds like you have it in a spreadsheet where every week you get a new spreadsheet of here are most important metrics for each of the 2 locations. What would those metrics be that you would put there?
So for sure, labor and your food cost, those are the big 2, and there has to be a standard and they need to be met, period. So our labor for years, it was less than 23%. That's what the POS gives you before all the social and taxes and all of that. Now it is 19% is our standard for labor. And the purchases is 30. It's 29 to 30%. We measure our purchases, not just the usage. We look at those numbers too, but purchases has been the one number we control that somehow our COGS is always within range if we control our purchases. So those are the 2 numbers that we measure on labor daily. Labor daily, it is posted in publicly in our messaging group within the team. That number is that important. What was yesterday and week to date, we look at that number.
Daily reports of the total sales that you did, what percentage of that was consumed by labor cost?
Yes, and then also for COGS, because we measure purchases, we're your weekly budget is $10,000. So a manager would say, I placed the first food truck, $2,500. Remaining budget is this much. So we have them be mindful of what's your remaining budget, because you need to stick within the budget. So those are reported daily.
And can you talk about how you found somebody for I think less than $5 an hour that does this for you, 10 or 20 hours a week? What specifically they do, how you found them, and how you set this all up?
So we've had virtual assistants for the last decade, and they help between submitting payroll. Our bookkeeper, she's fantastic. She's in Philippines as well. She's very meticulous about all numbers, every dollar, everything.
Where do you find these people?
There is a website called onlinejobs.ph. You can hire VAs, virtual assistants. They're usually about $4 to $5 an hour, and they work full time. I have them. We get so many comments on social media. I have on my team Jasmine. She responds to every single comment. I see everything. I see every review, everything. I get notifications. I have my pulse on what I see, so I can see the trend of what's transpiring. I do not respond to reviews. I do not respond to comments.
But she does it on your behalf. You've trained her. If this is the review sentiment, then respond this thing and say it is from Enga, or does she just say it's from
It's from Jasmine on the team. Yes. It doesn't have to be from me responding. She's responding from Mattenga's profile, responding to comments, but she has templates. She feeds the AI of how to respond to different reviews, for example. But that is about $4. You create a loom, click here, go there, get this data point, whatever thing it is. You were saying on how to populate the dashboard. Some software company hopefully is coming up with, solving that, but currently it's a spreadsheet. You create a training, click here, get this number. If this is more than this, it's off target. If it's less than that, it's on target.
Are all of your back of house operations, like payroll, accounting to some extent, all the review management stuff, all done in the Philippines now by that team? How many people are working at Mattenga's in the Philippines?
Probably 5 to 6.
Wow.
Full time. That frees me time so I can have a conversation with you. I know that our customers are taken care of. If something gets escalated, it comes to me. But that I sleep good at night knowing that I have VAs working a lot on behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, we need to do a whole deep dive on like exactly how you've set that all up, because I think particularly in this labor market with minimum wages going up so much and like wage expectations going up across the board, it's such a superpower to just have all of those back office things automated for you, and it ends up probably saving you 90% plus of what it would cost.
100%. Also, I batch a lot of things. We were talking about like having a month. For example, we know what our deals are as we're having this conversation is July. I'm going to get an email from Jasmine on the 25th of this month. She's going to make a suggestion for all of our deals for August. So I may tell her, no, this one changed to this or this one keep to that. We already know what our deals are for the whole month of August. She will write all the emails because she knows the format we want it to be done. And so decisions are, instead of making daily, weekly decisions, you can make less decisions, but on a deeper level, and batching. I think that is also key. The more batching, the better. Even training team members, hiring, we do in batches. Onboarding is always on Saturday at 10 a.m., not all hours of the day. Like,
makes total sense. Can you share more about specifically how you're using AI in this process? It's one of the questions that a lot of the people who are coming here to learn more about. How is it that you're like automating things, saving time, or driving growth using AI?
So responded to reviews, we talked about that. I have a template and a prompt for positive and negative. And
your prompt is something like, our core values are caring about customer. Like, can you tell us more about what the prompt you use is?
The language that I may have my language of how I would respond. I want it to be sound like a small business owner or a small restaurant owner. So stay away from any words that would not be relevant in the way a small business owner would talk. And then second, I give it some examples of the reviews that I have responded to. Jasmine feeds it. So this is the format. And again, we always lead with gratitude in everything we do. So that even in response, we appreciate for, your feedback, the fact that you took the time, it means a lot to us, it gives us an opportunity to make it right. So I've written some of those. She just feeds it into AI for positive and negative. That is one. Marketing as well. Like, for example, it's 4th of July. I ask AI for copy, for social media captions. I'm sure everybody does those things too, social media caption, but all of those is done in batches. We don't do it on a week. It is done in for the whole month at a time. And then
you do it on the 25th, it sounds like. You've got the system where the 25th of any month is when you start planning the next month worth of content and offers. And for those that are not as avid users of things like ChatGPT, basically what this enables you to do is specify exactly the type of response you want to have, lead with gratitude, and sound like a small business owner. Here's the review that they shared. Now give me a response back that sounds like a small business owner, that leads with gratitude, and that
ask for them to email us because we want to get that person, because you were saying publicly, you don't want to say, I want to give you a refund. If you would please email us to this email address so we can learn more and make it right. That's just, I'm sorry, it's a vague way of, it's not that specific that I'm going to give a refund, but we get the conversation going with this guest. Many of them do respond to that response, actually, and we make it right for the guest. But marketing all the way, if a termination needs to happen, I have a team member who we found out has been stealing $20 at a time out of the tip jar and they need to get terminated. Write me the exact copy that goes into that team member's termination form. That's basically
what you meant by doing HR for you. It gives you like the legally
100%
approved way to terminate somebody or like give feedback.
So if I have a manager who's not very experienced, I have him just read it. Read that script. So you don't need to be like, no awkwardness. Just read that script, have them sign it, thank you, and then it's done. For example, we deal with a lot of HR issues, so.
Yeah, it's running a restaurant in 2025.
The no call, no shows, the tardiness, maybe just us, I don't know, but I think it's a common problem everywhere, so yeah. Scripts for how to, for example, you want scripts, you have an Indeed applicant, how to respond to them to schedule an appointment with you. Our schedule times are Saturday this time to this time. Which one is it? Like all of those can be scripted out already. Yeah. Fix for typo. It's always perfect. So all of those, anything that you can think of, we use AI every day for all of those. Anything in writing. recipe books. I don't know when was the last time everybody updated the recipe books. And I had a conversation about like even, you have team members that do not speak English. It could be in Spanish. We had our menu. I just upload our menu and ask it to come up for a team member to write the menu in Spanish. The signs for, like how to build a salad, maybe you have a recipe book, you want it in Korean. 3 clicks, it's done. Even your employee handbook, you can have it in Korean or any language you want. It's just a few clicks.
If you were going back in time and advising yourself on the number one most important mistake to avoid that you ended up making, but you could have solved for yourself with advice as you started to go to multiple units on this journey of the past decade, what would you advise yourself to avoid making that mistake?
I think the greatest mistakes that are the most painful are people mistakes. So I would not avoid it. I think that is when you've been in business for a long time, you know that you will continue to make mistakes. What I would tell myself is that I will make mistakes and that is okay as long as I learn from it and are aggressive about solving our problems. The way I view how we operate is that we operate like a guided missile. Like the trajectory changes. It's not a perfect route, but the target remains the same. And the work isn't done till it's done. And so if we need to have a profitable location and I need to be at this percent, the work is not done till it's done. So that's how, if I need to see 20% sales growth across our 7 locations, that is my target. And I will try this. This didn't work. I try so many things because I need to taste this. You just like tasting different things for yourself to see what works. And that is okay. You will make a lot of mistakes. I think a lot of times folks are crippled by fear. Calculate the risk. Restaurant business is very risky, but you calculate that risk as much as you can. You run the numbers. We have closed locations. We've lost money. Team members, the problem is, when you have to go through unemployment claims, it gets ugly. And if you don't have documentation, which I will go over later in the AI stuff to do, but those are most hurtful. I think money you'll make, you lose, it comes and goes. It's a number, but I think people can be most hurtful, people that you do not expect. You invested so much of your time on this one manager, on this team member, and when things don't work out, it is very hurtful, I would say, at least for me. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Enga.
Thank you,
This was
Adam.
absolutely amazing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.